example of a force.
This was a force because Kaleena pushed the chair.
This is an example of gravity.
Without gravity, the ball would have floated in the air.
This is an example of free fall.
This object was in free fall because it accelerated as it dropped.
This is an example of friction.
These leaves were an example of friction because they exerted on each other as they rubbed against each other. Air resistant exerts an upward force on falling objects and slow them down.
An example of air resistance.
Centripetal force is a force that causes any object to move in a circular path.
This is an example of centripetal force.
There are two types of elastic forces, compression and tension. Tension is a force that stretches or pulls matter.
This is an example of the elastic force tension.
Compression is the elastic force that pushes or squeezes matter together.
This is an example of the elastic force compression.
The ball is accelerating and changing its direction. Therefore, it is an example of velocity and speed. Speed of an object is the distance the object travels in a certain amount of time. Velocity is the speed in a given direction.
This is an example of kinetic energy. Oh!
Potential energy is stored energy that results from the position or shape of an object.
This is an example of potential energy. This is an example of Newton's first law.
Newton's first law states that an object in motion will stay in motion and an object at rest will stay at rest.
This is an example of Newton's second law.
This proves Newton's second law because the ball had more mass and fell before the pen, which had less mass.
This is an example of Newton's third law.
Newton's third law states that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. In our example, the ball rolled up against the wall and came back in an opposite and equal reaction.